your microphone.
Yes, just for the technical details, yes, this webinar will be recorded and will be uploaded from EKOME website afterwards, so it will be accessible. So the theme of today's webinar is media and information literacy and disinformation. So disinformation, it's not something new, of course. It is a pathogenic phenomenon that reaches either directly or indirectly all media users. Everyone today has his own volcano of opinions that is erupted depending on the news agenda each time, mainly through social media platforms, and especially during the pandemic and the concurrent infodemia that followed it. So a quick look at the EU action is indicative of testifying how important and crucial media and information literacy is in relation to disinformation or disinfodemic. So there is the EDMO, the EU Digital Media Observatory, launched in June 2020 as a hub among media professionals and media literacy experts with a budget of 2.5 million to combat disinformation. It was a follow-up of the Code of Practice launched in 2018 and the European Communication on Tackling Online Disinformation, again in 2018. So there is also a new call for proposal with a budget of 3.9 million available for actions to support media freedom and investigative journalism, and media literacy falls into that remit. There is also the new Creative Europe Media Program 2021-2027. On the making, it is on the making, but the emphasis will be on disinformation and digital skills, and with a bigger budget. Also the new AVMSD 2018 under implementation in state regulation. Also the twinning thematic network, the educational network has as a thematic priority for 2021, media literacy and disinformation. And just launched the ERGA, the European Regulators Group for Audiovisual Media in Europe. They just launched this new report on how to improve media literacy campaigns on disinformation. So there is a lot going on there, but how exactly is media literacy associated with disinformation? Is it as an inevitable precaution measure linked with critical skills, or as a timely resource for responding to disinformation chaos afterwards? So in this webinar, our guest speakers will share with us their own point of view and the initiatives on media and information literacy. Let me welcome Leah Čengić from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Head of Content and Media Literacy from Communications Regulatory Agency. Leah is a meal specialist focusing on research on children and media education and policy, EU regulatory framework, and the regulation for new media services. Next, we have Nikos Panagiotou from Greece. Nikos is Associate Professor at School of Journalism and Mass Media Communication and Director of Peace Journalism Lab of Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. He's also Head of DCN Global. He's also acclaimed Google Research Scholar, initiator and organizing of Thessaloniki International Media Summer Academy. And overall, Nikos is very active in media and news literacy education. And then we have Antonio Román Casas from AUPEX, Spain. Antonio is a project coordinator working on training actions in media literacy, critical thinking, digital inclusion. He also coordinates the Digital Social Laboratory in the frame of the Digital Competence Program for Employability. He will also share with us a project of Infopirina. So there's a lot to find out there. All three guest speakers are also members of the Mediterranean Group for UNESCO Meal Alliance. We have 35 members thus far from 10 Mediterranean countries. And also at this point, I would like to show you and present you our news publication, which is Meet Our Members. It was launched by EKOME and highlights all the action on media and information literacy in the Mediterranean. And you can also visit EKOME at www.ekome.media to browse our e-booklet, to download it and learn more about what's going on in the Mediterranean. We will have more members in 2021 and more actions, so stay tuned. That would be all from me now. We're moving on with the first question. Leah, ladies first. So, are there any projects or initiatives in your organization that deal with media and information literacy with an emphasis on disinformation and could serve as a good example for exchanging of knowledge, especially during COVID-19 pandemic? Hi, Leah.
So, thank you, Irene, and thank you, EKOME, for bringing us together today. So I will speak from a position of a regulator and present you some of our activities. Like many other regulators, we have been active in this field of media and information literacy for some 10 years, a little bit more than 10 years. But most of our activities were focused on children, protection of minors. That was our main issue, like for all other regulators, I guess. So only end of 2019, a special department within our agency has been formed. It's called Department for Content, Media Content and Media Literacy. And we started working in full capacity just some 6 months before the start of the pandemic in Europe, or in our region. So we had planned a lot of activities which were not going in this direction, but of course we had to change our plans and to do something different. Our two main activities were just to bring different partners with whom we have worked in the previous 10 years together and to exchange our plans for 2020. And to find some joint projects. So we formed some kind of an informal mill network in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which consists now of some 50 members from state institutions like Data Protection Agency, Ministries of Communication, Ministries of Education, Ombudsman for Children, then different NGOs dealing with different topics like media education, protection of children, online safety, many partners from this online safety or cybersecurity niche. Then we have partners in international organizations such as UNESCO, UNICEF, Council of Europe, etc. So we started networking and started some joint projects. And one of our projects was also establishing a Facebook page in order to communicate all these different materials and resources produced within different projects. Because what we have learned from the experience is that there were some projects, but we had then dead websites with materials which were no longer available, educational materials for different topics, mill topics, which were not available anymore. So we tried to gather all the materials and resources produced in the country, also UNESCO's materials which were localized in our language, and to communicate them and to build a community of, for example, youth workers, psychologists, teachers, librarians, and other mill experts, but also parents and wider public. So we established this Facebook group. I will show you just a few posts that we and few materials that we produced during the pandemic. We invited our partners from different organizations to produce some extra materials. For example, on media habits, on how to find trustful sources and how to verify information, including photos and videos during the pandemic. We produced also some videos on on parenting in the digital age, how to deal with children in this increased digital environment, with homeschooling, with really excessive screen time. and also how to spot various forms of disinformation, and also something on the issue of crisis communication, which from my opinion was quite poor in our country. We got so many different information at the same time, and the communication to public regarding, for example, the restrictions, the rules, but also our daily habits, you know, how to live during the pandemic was not very consistent. So these are some of the posts, just to give you a hint what we were talking about. For example, what is an infodemic and how to deal it, the importance of impressum, how to get to more trustful information during the pandemic, what is disinformation, how to talk to children about false content and untruthful content, how to spot fake news, and what is EU doing to combat fake news. For example, some video games developed in Bosnia and Herzegovina to teach the children how to spot spin and other forms of disinformation. And that was one part of our work. It means not only producing some materials, but also communicating and building the community and communicating already existing resources. Another part of our work, which was important, was research. We conducted a small research in cooperation with UNICEF. They have an excellent platform. It's called iReport. On adequate informing about the situation related to COVID-19 in Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was very important to us to see if, for especially young people, do know how to verify information, how to check information. And about 1/3 of them said that they do not have this competence. And also to learn about what are the main sources of information for them. Is it really the internet, or does the television play also an important role? It helped us also create other materials, you know, and send messages. If you have to know your target group, and it was an excellent research done through this platform. I can just recommend it, and it's for free, you know. You just have to draft your questions by yourselves. The platform does all the work, so to say. And another thing was a huge research on children's media habits and parental attitudes, which was planned for a quite long time. About 4,000 children divided into 5 age groups, and their parents were interviewed in person during the pandemic. And we gained really deep insight into their access to media, content they engage with, time spent using media, rules on media use and parental supervision, and their knowledge, which is very important. Are they really confident with media? They think, for example, more than 70% of children in Bosnia and Herzegovina say they know enough about media. 99% of teenagers are using YouTube, but at the same time, only 58% of them know how to report inappropriate content. So it means we really have a lot of things to do in the future. And of course, there were many other initiatives. I would like just to mention some which were not really directed in this mill area, but which were classic, so to say, classic regulatory activities. For example, we also ensured that all important information on TV stations and radio stations were made accessible to people with disabilities, which was not previously the case. I think this question of accessibility of information, this component of media literacy, is also very important. You have to make also the information accessible to different groups, to vulnerable groups, in order to avoid these volcanoes that you said, the volcanoes you mentioned. Another measure was also financial support for our TV stations, because I think by supporting quality journalism, professional standards, and quality media content, you also support the fight against disinformation. You support your people being well informed during the pandemic, which is very, very important. So this was one small part of our activities. And another small issue that I would like to mention is that the total cost of all our activities from our budget was only 250 euros. Everything else was in cooperation with other stakeholders, which we planned in advance, and was done by ourselves, was done by our network pro bono. So I think sometimes also when there is will and there is knowledge, you can achieve a lot also without huge budgets. So that was our experience.
Thank you, Leah. Very impressive. You are the newest member at the Mediterranean group of UNESCO Mill Alliance. You're very active, and certainly we will need your help to reach this network you have with 50 bodies in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So we're moving on to Nikos. Nikos, can you just inform us about the project and initiatives?
Yes, thank you, Irene. I would like to thank also my co-panelists as well for having this discussion today, because actually it is a way to exchange good practices and we can find actually how we can establish new synergies. So as Aristotle University and also as Digital Communication Network Global, but also as Peace Journalism Lab, we have actually taken the chance in order to promote media literacy activities that we have actually started some years ago, but we intensified it during COVID-19. Why it was why there was a necessity to intensify these, let's say, media literacy activities due to the disruption of COVID-19 that actually changed a lot of aspects with a very specific element upon education. What we have done is that we intensified the number of webinars that we have offered to the public regarding media literacy and disinformation. We are working a lot on the issue of disinformation and how can media literacy, and more specifically news literacy, can tackle disinformation. So as Digital Communication Network Global, we have initiated a series of webinars from March 2020 till today. It has been successfully launched with a great participation from all over the world. And what we have actually worked upon it is to highlight how students, journalists can cope, and the general public can cope with this over-information during the COVID-19 period that underline the importance of news literacy. In a normal period, an adult actually have to consume, let's say, 4 hours per day news, but during COVID-19, this is almost double. So it was a necessity to develop capabilities and skills in order to cope with it. Secondly, what we have done is that we have conducted a research that started from March 2020 till December 2020, with over 6,000 participants. These actually ongoing research, it was, we wanted actually to understand and research how public opinion is being informed during COVID-19, what are the critical skills that they have or they lack, and what is the level of disinformation either that they have seen or they have been have to deal with. So we ended up in having very interesting results. Among these results, it was the necessity to promote media literacy skills, and it emphasized what we are actually arguing, that we need to move from from technical competencies to critical competencies. And this is a very important element. I think that we will discuss it later on. Thirdly, every year from 2016, we organized the Salonique International Media Summer Academy. We have a special section devoted to media literacy. Sherry Hope Calver, I think that all of you know her. She's a distinguished scholar. is in a way in charge of it, in terms that we have started this initiative together with Seri, with Deutsche Welle, with Halim University from Korea, with University of Zagreb, University of Novi Sad, and also Digital Communication Network, Kapodistrian University from Athens, Beijing University from China. So this coalition actually is the the Center for Media Literacy of Temple University, that where Seri is in charge. So this initiative, this year actually we had Irene as well, in order to, where she developed a lecture about media literacy skills. It is an initiative, and it is important because every year participates 40 to 50 participants from all over the world. From Latin America till Asia, we have the chance actually to discuss current and ongoing research regarding media literacy and news literacy as well. This year, the Thessaloniki International Media Summer Academy will take place between 16th to 23rd of July 2021, for those of you that you're interested. Thirdly, we continued the Greek National Media Literacy Week that we organized. This year was the fourth year that we initiated with journalists about journalism, with Katerina Chrysanthakopoulos, that she's actually, which is also a PhD candidate of School of Journalism. And the National Week of Media Literacy is also an important initiative because we have the chance to, to highlight good practices that take place in Greece, and also to promote the visibility of the issue. This element is very crucial, because what we have understood, it is due to disinformation, media literacy became a hot issue. But as everyone can understand, hot issues attracts people that they see it as an opportunity. They don't have the necessary knowledge, and they are just parachuting into the field. So this consists of a major danger, because it might derail media literacy as a concept. This is why I think that the Media Literacy Alliance of Mediterranean region is more than important, in order to serve as a mechanism that it will highlight good practices rather than justify people that they will just appear now and disappear the day after. So during Media Literacy Week that we organize for 4 years now, this year it became a month actually, because we have included major schools and colleges and universities from Greece, Anatolia College, the American Farming School, the Goethe Institute, and we have highlighted the very good practices that take place in Greece. So what we have done, it was a coalition of universities, of public and private schools and colleges, in order to disseminate this issue in the society level. And among the most distinguished initiatives, it is the ones that arise from a Greek public school, from Chrysa Lazou, that is called DigiTeens. We cooperated together with Chrysa in order to deliver specific, let's say, elements and fragments of media literacy into students from schools all over Greece. And that was another element, because a major discussion point, and this is my last thing, a major discussion point, it is how to involve students at the primary and the secondary education into the field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikos. Indeed, you're doing quite a lot in Thessaloniki, and you have a global outreach. We're very happy to hear that you are also working with typical education and primary and secondary schools. This is something that we here in EKOME are also working and focusing too. So there are plenty of opportunities there. May I remind everyone that should you have any interesting links from organizations or projects, you can post them on chat so that all the attendees can access them. And we're moving now to Román from Spain, and give us your insight and tell us more about Infopirina. Román.
Thank you very much, Irene. It is very interesting because, thank you very much, and thank you for having AUPEX in this interesting webinar, because media literacy is a very hot topic for us at the moment. And we are active in the field of adult education and non-formal education. And I think this is a sector where media literacy was not that included, let's say. I would like to share a very short presentation so you kind of understand who we are, and yeah, so what do we do? Can you see my presentation? So we are AUPEX. We are the Folk High School Association, and we are located in the southwest of Spain. And we, sorry, I'm going to present it. So we developed the so-called Digital Competence Program for Employability. So linking disinformation and media literacy with employability is a challenge, but it's something really needed in these times. So we are part of a national and international network, and we also, as an organization, develop a variety of lifelong learning projects. So we gathered 210 folk high schools located in rural areas in the southwest of Spain. And we also manage the Digital Competence Network in Extremadura to provide this training and awareness raising activities. So for us, media literacy, the first challenge was to translate it. We could not find the appropriate words to talk about people what media literacy is. I think this is a common challenge in different languages. I don't know, I would like to ask that questions. Anyways, we work mainly with adults over 16, so people at risk of exclusion, on low-skilled adults, on minorities or vulnerable groups. But every year we reach over 20,000 users. So our mission is to boost this inclusive digital transformation, where information and disinformation play a very important role. So among our challenges, we address media literacy and digital skills and critical thinking as key elements in all our training actions. So we work with people with different needs, but with the same objective, to develop a minimum level of digital and media literacy skills that allow everyone to fully participate in the digital world. So the approach is quite different from what you have presented so far, because we work with a different target group. And among the resources we would like to present, to share with you today is, I will stop now with Infopirina. Even we develop another projects, as you can see here, so connecting jobs and disinformation and try to foster these debates. As I said, the challenge really is how to talk about media literacy with our target group. What is it? Because in Spanish we say alfabetización mediática, which is a combination of two words that we are not that familiar with. So I would like to share with you this project, Infopirina. This is the solution we found to talk about media literacy with low-skilled adults living in rural areas. So this project was designed before the pandemic, but we presented disinformation as a virus. As a virus that you can identify through the following symptoms, right? Sorry, this is still only in Spanish and Italian. I think this will be a very good practice to be translated into different languages. But so the symptoms are so lack of critical thinking and hate speech and manipulated information. No, once you identify that, there is some phenomena that you can identify also as filter bubbles, echo chambers. We need to talk about emotional manipulation. So we start creating a framework around media literacy with people who can start understanding this structure. So I find it really interesting because, as you can see, the website, it looks quite friendly, user-friendly, and you can see that it talks about a virus, which is disinformation. And also we present here some data about how this information affects different user profiles while surfing the internet. So there is some data that has been adapted also to Italy, that can be adapted to different countries. But for example, so almost 70% of the population doesn't trust the information they receive through social networks. But most of them say that they find this kind of information in their everyday life. And I think a very interesting data is that only 2% of young people have a critical attitude when they access content online. Well, we have the sources of this data, and it is quite interesting. The treatment against this virus and this sickness, let's say, is media literacy. So media literacy, critical thinking, and then what you need to take is an infopirina, which is presented as a natural remedy against disinformation based on the active principles of critical thinking and media literacy. This is the way we start talking about media literacy with people who are probably not that familiar. And then there is quite a lot of more information here that you can access, some pieces of advice and this. And something that is quite important is we created a test to identify whether you are infected or not. So this is something that can be also quite useful for adults and people who, well, they don't have this critical attitude while they are surfing the internet. So there are also, we identify some secondary effects, and yeah, you can check them. I am not going to go through all of them because but you know that we talk about polarization and ethics and, well, the trust in media and democracy. So yeah, this is the way we present this information. So once I have shared with you this project of Infopirina, well, sorry, just to conclude, we also mentioned some professionals here. So as the Milkleaks initiative from the UNESCO too, so the European Media Literacy Week and the All Digital Week, which are international campaigns where media literacy is also one of the hot topics, and also to share with our users this idea of that we have in front of us a global phenomenon that has been addressed from European institutions and from global institutions as the UNESCO. Okay, so yeah, coming back to other resources, at the moment, we are part of the working group that has been created by the European Commission through the JRC, together also with All Digital, so the European Association of Digital Competence Centers. And we are designing the European framework for of digital skills for citizenship, the EKOME 2.2, the new version of this framework. And media literacy is one of the key elements in this new framework. And we are working on this at the moment. So I think this is something quite important to take part on these discussions and these working groups. We are part of them. And also because the Digital Education Action Plan that was launched recently by the European Commission also includes fighting against disinformation and as one of the priorities in the educational system. So this is so far the way we understand media literacy, the way we are addressing these challenges, the way we are framing it in adult education and also connecting it to digital skills.
Thank you very much, Roman. It is very interesting, this dimension that you link it with social inclusion and digital inclusion. Very impressive, and you were actually very proactive and far-seeing. I mean, you invented a remedy before the virus, the actual virus. So that was kudos to you. And this is also in line with the digital transformation policy that happened in Greece during the pandemic, from the onset of the pandemic, by the Ministry of Digital Governance, and this digital skills competence framework is actually very much relevant and relevant to media literacy. We have some questions. We can get back to them at the end of the discussion. We can move forward with the second question. Nikos, so what steps in your opinion need to be taken for putting forward more specific strategies on media and information literacy? We have talked about projects, but how all these projects, campaigns, they all come together? What's your opinion on that? Thank you.
Okay, I might like I would just make a brief overview and then I will share the screen in order to, in detail, to respond to these issues. What we think, and this is what we strive for, we think that there is a necessity, instead of having 1,000 islands of media literacy activities, to bring them under one umbrella. So I think that up until now, this is what was happening. Secondly, it is to actually to move over and cooperate with other disciplines that we share the same interest. For example, what we have done, and we have included this year in the National Media Literacy Week, is actually to join forces with the academic network of libraries. So thanks to Anthi Bayu that she has taken this initiative and she's responsible for that. Anthi is a PhD candidate in the department and in the lab. What we have done is that we have created synergies with the network of the academic libraries. And we included the term of, we have seen how informational literacies and media literacies activities from libraries can join forces with our initiatives. This has proven to be very useful because actually, as Leah have underlined, we lack, it's not a matter of sources actually. Sometimes what we need is actually to move beyond our circle and see how we can actually create synergies with others. So based on that, I would like actually to share with you my thoughts on what we need to do in the day after. What we need to do, it is actually to understand that skills and knowledge are not separate. Secondly, to be included as a cross-scientific approach, libraries, IST, etc. And then we will have what it has been mentioned before, and I'm really happy about it, to include a combination of approaches that it will equally include formal and non-formal education settings. Because if we actually stay only in formal education, we will lose a great path. And why? Because actually the current situation, it emphasizes to technical skills, IST education, how to open, close the computer, I mean in primary education, how to use XYZ programs. MEAL is by component. We have an issue with fake news and disinformation. What do? We go to media literacy, let's say, programs. But this is not the issue. Media literacy, it should not be seen as a by component. So MEAL, it should be seen as a core part of the education challenges, especially in a new normal that it has been characterized from emergency and remote education. That the fact that we have been transferred in digital spaces, that it will be the new normal. This is the case actually for more and more people working on a remote digital spaces. Through technological evolution, artificial intelligence, 5G, etc. And they challenge our societies to continue the day after. So upon these challenges, it is actually, there is a necessity to raise media literacy skills. We cannot actually approach even media literacy with terms of the previous decade. Because actually what we have witnessed, it is an overturn of our lives. So from the point that we were, for example, talking about some competencies of media literacy, this, for example, seems to be in a way outdated. We have to include all these new elements, for example, digital spaces, the right to be the right to be not connected. These are elements that should become part of media literacies because they will help us actually to promote this critical element that Román highlighted and Leah also highlighted in their interventions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikos. Román? Can you please unmute?
Yeah, so again, well, we are active in our reality, so we need to identify those challenges in our reality. So we are a team of e-facilitators. So e-facilitators so far have had the European framework of digital skills as a reference to develop their training actions, the workshops, awareness raising, and now they need to develop new abilities in this frame of media literacy. So the first objective is we have presented some tools to address media literacy with our final users, but there is a step in between where we need to talk about media literacy with professionals, e-facilitators, but also other local stakeholders that are active in different fields of inclusion with different people, because media literacy affects everything. So this is also one question I would like to raise later. What are the limits of media literacy and disinformation? Because it affects all aspects in our life, all aspects of our life. So Nikos was talking before about news literacy. We can give it 1,000 names. And I have a final question for that, so I don't want to go still there. But the first objective is to create this professional ecosystem around media literacy going in all directions. And so, for example, we have a collaboration network. So in each town where we are present, we kind of have the flag of media literacy, trying to foster this responsible use of digital technologies, because information is in a digital environment. So also on media, and I agree also with Nikos that media literacy is not the media literacy that 10 years ago. Now media literacy is digital media literacy. And probably there's going to be a new version of media literacy. I have a surprise for later. But yeah, this is the question we need to raise, and this is the challenges we have to face, and is professionals working with other people in education, formal, non-formal education. They need to develop this set of media literacy skills. And I also agree that we need a common frame of digital, of media, let's say digital media literacy, media and information literacy. So in the discussions we are having at the moment about DigiCom, so the European framework of digital skills for media literacy, this is for digital skills, sorry. Media literacy is included in the discussions and is a transversal topic that will be, in my opinion, will need to be more and more important. Yeah, that's all so far.
Thank you, Antonio, for the interdisciplinary approach of media literacy. Let's move to Leah. Leah?
Yes, Nicholas already said this whole situation gave a push to media and information literacy. It became more popular, but we also can confirm that there happened a decrease in quality of media literacy initiatives. There are many really not very good projects where things are just being done on a very superficial way, not going into deep aspects, not only of critical thinking, critical understanding, but also social responsibility and ethics in communication. So we have seen the same, and a few years ago, European Audiovisual Observatory conducted a large study, mapping of different media and information literacy projects across Europe. And the conclusion was that some target groups were completely left out, and some aspects of media literacy also. And I think that's the starting point still for all of us, you know, just to know your different target groups very well. And Román gave us an excellent example of rural South Spain and their target groups. So I think we really have to do a lot of research, and that's what we are doing as a regulator, for example, this year with a large research on adults media literacy, with also special focus or sections on women's media literacy, seniors media literacy. So you have to know your different target groups. And I'm really happy to be with you from our Mediterranean region today here, because sometimes you read something that just does not fit to our situation, to our mentality. Still, I think each country has its own specifics, and it's okay. It's okay. But you have to create your strategy in accordance with your specifics. For example, different in access to media, the digital gap is different in different countries, popularity and trustworthiness of PBS versus commercial TV stations, use of different platforms, presence and prominence of science journalism, which is very important. For example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have really a lack of good quality science journalists. We have one excellent lady who is doing overtime now. She's doing really excellent work, but it depends from country to country. You have some specifics. It means it's really important to address all these target groups, not only young people, which are the biggest target group, I think, and the most popular one, but also just normal, ordinary, middle-aged people. And it's also important for us to understand that the target groups are not all parents are the same. They just do not fit into, this is a parent. You have parents who are video gamers, but you have parents who have never played a video game, you know. So you have really different levels of knowledge and also different levels of being interested into this topic. So you have to try to reach them with different kind of projects, different kind of initiatives. And these digital formats, which we have now, like webinars, which you can produce really in a low cost way, are excellent form, but for some they are really an excellent way to learn something new, to get engaged, but for others they are completely unsuitable. It means you have to develop a really a palette of different activities. And also what I always like to stress is to try also people with disabilities, to make audio description, closed caption easy to read the materials in the format. And critical thinking was already mentioned, and I think Román also mentioned this emotional perspective. We have to focus also on awareness of our media habits and influence of media content on us and our emotions, but also have to talk a little bit more about our social responsibility and ethics in communication. When I'm communicating in the public space, it has a certain responsibility and I have to be aware of it. It's not only about the critical skills we were talking about for the last 10 years. I think now more than ever, when we talk about public health, it's also a question of social responsibility. So these are just a few hints. And I think for a good cooperation, it's really important to know what your partners in the country are doing. For example, EPRA just published an excellent paper on video sharing platforms. And in this paper, it stresses once again the importance of having this national coordination or national strategy, and to know the problems and your target groups in order to give some hints to the platforms in order to make them to make their media and information literacy projects really have sense and be useful to the final public. So I'm always fond of having a good national coordination and a national strategy or a strategy on national level, which would set out different problems, but also the strategies that responsible institutions and ensure budgetary or financing of these activities. So that's from my opinion the way to have a better quality and to reach everyone, so to say.
To reach everyone, as you said. I mean, after all, also the European Commission says that it is media literacy for all, with all the EU funding projects. The new Audiovisual Media Service Directive now talks about the ISP, the internet service providers and the video sharing platforms. They have to get more actively involved, not just parents, not just students. So there are many pathways, and there is just a coordination that is needed on a national, European or international level. We're happy to have with us, as I saw from the participants, UNESCO Mill Alliance Vice Chair, Sherry Hop-Calver, and also Wallace. He is also a member of UNESCO Mill Alliance. They are watching us. So we have discussed overall where is media and information literacy heading in the future. We have discussed about the main parameters. Antonio talked about digital media literacy. I like to talk about postmodern media literacy that engages interoperability, interaction with the users, issues of artificial intelligence and gamification, digital skills, digital citizenship, also themes of disinformation and combating fake news, copyrights, media ethics, especially when you're dealing with digital content. All these in the quest for finding post-truth, let's say, in the digital era. So is there any other challenge that you see with regards to media information literacy in the future? Are we on the right point at this moment with the pandemic? I mean, we all talk about health media literacy that is mostly involved to the pandemic. But overall, as Nikos said, it needs to be an umbrella concept. So Antonio, can you share with us your final thoughts? You said you had some questions you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's a very interesting discussion. I'm really inspired and motivated. I would like to share again my screen very quick. So we all have mentioned the old challenges we face. No? So we have talked about critical thinking. We know when fighting against disinformation, the time and the skills we need to verify this volcano of information. I love this expression and I will use it from now on. And we are all in our bubbles of information that make us feel cozy, and we don't need to know anything else, but whatever information just confirms what we think. No, we are there, and going out of this bubble needs a lot of effort. So these are the common challenges we face with the users and the people we work with. And this challenge also, this metacognitive learning, also this awareness of oneself's bias and the potential we have and the way we use the information. And this is the old challenges, but what are the new challenges? So we know that artificial intelligence is behind these deep fakes that now are spreading very rapidly in the society. We know these new techniques of natural language processing. We know about the big ethical problems that we are having with algorithms and decision-making and artificial intelligence and the bots, and how the personal data is being used to manipulate the opinion of the society. So I think we all are aware of this, the impact of artificial intelligence in social media, in education, in the decision-making process, in the everyday life. So if we talked about digital literacy, that was the question I would like to share with you. Should we start talking about AI media literacy? Should we include algorithm literacy in the media literacy? Should we include data literacy in the media literacy? These are questions that are at the moment open and that will make media literacy a bigger umbrella, as Nico was saying, because now we are including very technical knowledge and very technical abilities and skills in this umbrella of this frame of media literacy? And in my opinion, the answer is yes. We need to start talking about AI media literacy. So in that question, we are about launching a new project, probably in the next days. I think our director is also connected, and I would like to tell her that we are going to launch a very nice project that is based on the Artificial Intelligence Society. And the question is, what is the role of media literacy in the Artificial Intelligence Society? Because we can now talk about the Artificial Intelligence Society. We came from the Information Society to the Digital Society, and now we are heading to the Artificial Intelligence Society. Also during this pandemic, the artificial intelligence has exploded. And I think this is one of the biggest challenges as an alliance really in the frame of media literacy we will need to face in the following weeks, let's say, very soon. Yeah, this is the surprise I wanted to share with you, the question.
Looking forward to it, Roman, and feel free to share with us with EKOME whenever it is launched, also within the Mediterranean network. Leah, any finishing thoughts on the future of media literacy?
I'm more concerned about our overall well-being. You know, I'm afraid of this skepticism due to this volcano of different opinions that you mentioned. You know, so I'm really afraid that people are. There is a strong divide in our society now. You have pros and contras, anti-vax, pro-vax. You have people who just love fake news. You have such people also among your friends who are watching some strange videos on YouTube. And I'm really a little bit more concerned about our reaction to this whole. Are we gonna step back and say we are not interested in what's going on in our society in news at all? Because of this overwhelming effect of what's going on right now. And when it comes to this whole digital, I'm against digital because I think, as I said, for some, even the question of access to media is still a problem, not only for people with disabilities, but also for people who have no means to access certain services. And I'm coming from I guess the poorest country in Europe, so we really do have it in Europe still. So I think for some people the access is still a problem. The basics of critical thinking, of advertising literacy are still a problem for all kids. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I'm sometimes talking about product placement on YouTube with her. So my mother was laughing at me, who's a journalist herself, you know, and said, "Isn't it a little bit too early to talk about advertising?" But it's not, you know. It's still a problem. Okay, artificial intelligence, algorithms, it's an issue, it's an important issue, and we are working also on it. I think we really have to cover everything and for everyone. And in order to achieve it with good quality, you have to have really experts in certain fields, not just a media literacy expert for this, expert for that. And you have to have an excellent coordination. Otherwise, we will just have plenty of projects who are just copy-paste projects, and you will not reach your target groups and not have the achievement. And how can we solve this problem with the skepticism? I would like to hear from our participants. How would you encourage users to stay healthy, to stay well informed? What are your tips?
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Very interesting points to ask our participants afterwards. So, Nikos?
Yes, Okay, if I may just quickly respond to a bit, because I think that it is important for our audience actually to respond to this question that Lea posed. A challenge it is that when promoting media literacy is not actually to endorse skepticism against and the loss of trust, because there is a gap in trust regarding media. So we should be able to distinguish between being critical and being hectic or actually being suspicious about media. So media literacy, I think that some people got stuck in that don't believe in media or whatever, that we have seen that endorsed actually hate speech, polarization, as Leo, as Román have actually mentioned. So we have to be able to distinguish upon these two elements. It's not about being suspicious, don't believing in institutions, not to trust our institutions. Regarding the challenges, what my previous co-speakers spoke, I really agree. I will just, there are excellent points that they raised. So these are for me my last points, that we have to be able to distinguish between skills that are novel and skills that must be taught more intentionally and effectively in order to be able to lead the educational reforms. So this means that because there is a lot of discussion all across the globe regarding the issue of STEAM education, we have to include this element of media literacy as part of it. Secondly, I think that a major and important element is the digital divide, media literacy as a way to combat the digital divide. Thirdly, including and providing meal-related training for educators, and the university and school librarians, and developing relevant educational materials and tools. They're mostly needed in order to be integrated into public schools, into libraries, into even in youth clubs, etc., in every aspect that can be an alliant to that element. Fourth, and the last point, it is that I think that the media literacy, as the recent COVID-19 crisis has proven to us, it cannot be dealt as an issue that it is only related with media studies or with librarian studies or educational studies. It moves beyond than that. During COVID-19, we realized the importance of health literacy. So this means actually how to include science journalism into this field. So meaning that we have to integrate or to include and to leave equally behind some fragments of media literacy that before even 5 years, we never thought that doctors, for example, might be part of media literacy. Okay. And the last thing that allow me please to insist on that, it is because media literacy, it is a trending topic. There have to be seen ways in order actually to certify media literacy projects than media literacy flags or whatever. This is an important element. Otherwise, we will have to deal with something that it will be uncontrollable. Everyone now teaches media literacy, but is it true media literacy, or it is just an opportunity element? Thank you very much.
Irene, you are muted.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Now? No. Okay. So that are indeed very good points, Nikos, because I was wondering the other day about the digital skills, because we're focusing on acquiring new skills and digital skills and technical skills. But are all these all these new capacities, do they actually make us media and information literate citizens? So there are many things, and that media literacy media and information literacy was a interdisciplinary project in the past, combining theories from many fields. But now the context has become even broader and bigger. So we need to look into there and define it again. But Román wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah, very interesting again. Should then be a European, let's say, to give it a dimension, a European framework of media literacy skills? Should there be something like this? And not to be included in the European framework for digital skills? Would that be a suggestion we could do to the European Commission? I think it is, on one hand. Leah, your question to talk about how to promote this media literacy and how to talk about people to keep healthy. Today in the morning, my colleague Gemma, who is probably watching this, she's really an expert on media literacy and she's amazing. She shared a thought, something she read, and it's a question to be shared with a group of students or whoever, and is, why are there more people subscribed to Netflix than to newspapers? This is a very simple question, but if you ask that question to a group of students, it will show us what the priorities are. Is it your priority to have access to quality information or to have access to nice series or to watch cinema? No, this is a question that was in an article she was reading today in the morning. And on the other hand, I would like also to raise the question that, because at the moment in this artificial intelligence society, the question is, as humans, what kind of society do we want to build? Because this question is now the question we need to answer ourselves as humans. So media literacy in this context of ethics and reflection that we need to foster plays an essential role. So I just wanted to share these thoughts, and yeah, I'm really enjoying the discussion. Very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you, Román. I think it's time to engage our audience into this very lively discussion. I mean, this is just an introduction to all the projects that you are running, people, and coordinating. So we would need many more hours in order to go into more details. But let's give the floor to our audience. There was one question for you, actually, Román, from Katerina Chrysanthopoulos. How do you measure critical attitude of your students? Because you mentioned that only 2% of the students, they have critical skills. So how do you measure that?
Yeah, well, this 2%, it was shared by the European Commission to measure some of the critical skills, and I can share the link where this information was found. In our case, we have some tests that ask users to identify different phenomena related to disinformation and media literacy, as I said before, to identify emotional manipulation, identify echo chambers, identify filter bubbles in the newspaper and in the social media. So once they complete these forms, which are forms that we create, I can also share them. Unfortunately, we have them only in English, in Spanish, sorry. They get a feedback. So media literacy I don't think is something you can measure. Media literacy is something that can help you become better informed citizens. So if you can identify all these phenomena that is connected to media literacy, you will feel more confident as a citizen. So measuring it is difficult, but what we can do is to foster debate and to foster discussion about it. So you stop, this is another name of one of our actions, you stop, reflect, and verify. You cannot measure that because this is something you do in your everyday life. But as professionals, this is the challenge, no, to foster this kind of attitude, this critical attitude. But yeah, I will share the link of Infobrina and this 2%, which is something really, is a very interesting study that I will recommend you. I will encourage you to check. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you, Roman, and thank you for sharing the link. We have another question for Nikos Panagiotou from by Thomas Aristotle Karagiannis. So, Nikos, do you think in order to make the distinction among media literacy and digital media literacy, should we hold the same standards as the classical media? Is that even possible? He's talking about digital media literacy and media literacy in the classical media.
Thank you for the question as well, but I will just refer to what have happened yesterday with Thomas Cook, that he actually said the following against actually Facebook, and I think that it highlights how the major difference that exists even in the field that we call digital space. So what Thomas Cook from Tim Cook, I'm sorry, Thomas, because Thomas is the person that asked. Tim Cook mentioned it is that our brand, Apple, it is a lifestyle. So we respect our audience in contrast with Facebook, that is actually making money, etc., out of the use of data, so they gather data. So it's a totally distinct, let's say, even in what we call digital, we should, it entails very distinct and very specific, let's say, distinctions even among the digital field. Of course, the typical media, as we have it in mind, together with digital, there are many and serious changes, but nevertheless, as we have seen from before, from what my co-panelists presented, there are some aspects that are the same. For example, what we call critical, as Roman have presented before, how actually to connect the dots, as I call it. It still remains the same quest, and how actually to make meaning out, as Leah have said about advertising. This remains in a way the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. I agree with you. Actually, it is the context that changes. The basic principles, the content, it might be different in the context, but the main principles that have to do with communicating a message and reception, they are the same with media literacy and digital media literacy. Whereas Christian Parente says that he prefers, instead of media literacy or digital literacy, to use the more inclusive term of UNESCO media information literacy. I mean, whatever the term we adopt, the essence is that we need to focus on. And I think that's it, is what's more important here. Any other question that you may have? I just need to answer that actually in times of crisis like the pandemic, we need a calibrated response. And according to UNESCO, the desire to believe all the news that is going around, it can outweigh the desire to be better informed. And this is the main challenge here, to fight this ephemeral nature, you know, of news and information, and this information being the main risk, and to understand that media, that we live in consciousness societies, and media play the most prominent active role. So we need to think twice before we share content. We need to think twice whenever we are informed about something, especially that has to do with the pandemic. We need maybe to approach a SWOT social policy approach, like strength, to find the strengths, the weakness, the opportunities, the threats, around media literacy and disinformation and act on a general precautionary principle. We need to address, in other words, the politics of the now impossible but soon to be possible to adapt media literacy in our daily life. If there are any other questions from the audience, I have to check.
I wanted to attract your attention here. There is a question at the Q&A section by Mr. Kostas Voros. He's actually agreeing that the field of media literacy is expanding with new technologies and new societal realities constantly emerging. But he's asking the panelists' opinion about the BFI 6 key concepts that he believes that allow us to comprehend and analyze even new phenomena, such as fake news and disinformation. And he asks the panelists to consider if maybe it would be easier to be reminded of such powerful frameworks instead of introducing new terms such as AI literacy, health literacy, etc., because maybe this makes us lose focus of things that we have already developed. So maybe you want to invite our panelists, I mean, in which order they want to speak, or I don't know if anyone wants to.
On the 6 principles set by the BFI, Despina.
It's the framework of BFI 6 key concepts. I'm not entirely sure to which he refers, but I'm very confident that our panelists are more familiarized with this.
Yeah, or maybe Kostas can give us these 6 principles, the framework principles set by BFI, in order to have a more clear picture.
Yes,
sure.
Can I respond to that?
Yes,
because,
yes, please.
Okay, so what we are actually doing here is that we're not actually trying to. We have to understand the following: that the basic principles, and we agree here. Mr. Kostas, I remember his name.
Boris, yes.
Mr.
Kostas Voros.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Voros. I think that we all have agreed on what you mentioned for the key principles that underline inclusive environments and inclusive education. Secondly, but that shouldn't prohibit us from including elements that are new ones. I will build up my argument on what Leah have mentioned. She has a child that she's really young. I mean, I think that you mentioned he or she is 3 years old. How old is he or he? Okay, 4. Okay, so she has started actually working with her child regarding advertising literacy in a way. A previous generation thought that this is too young in order to be introduced, but you see that this technological change that happens because when her child or my child comes upon a YouTube video, needs us to adapt what we used to say that we will apply it in the ages of on 7 or 8 in younger ages. So we have to have in mind that, for example, I had my mobile phone, my first mobile phone when I was almost 30 years old. My children got their mobile phone when they were 13 to 14 years old. So this is an important change. That doesn't mean that it changes the whole basic concept, but it enriches this concept. And this is why we propose new types of literacies, that it will adapt key concepts in new realities.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikos. So key concepts in new realities, in the new normal. Okay, so I don't know, Despina, if there are any more questions?
Not that I can. Oh, I see that it's again Mr. Voros who says he agrees with Nikos and thanks thanks him for his reply. I cannot see any new questions either in chat or in the Q&A section.
Okay, so Leah, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I just wanted to add that I'm not against specific new literacies. We had also old literacies like film literacy, advertising literacy, audiovisual literacy, visual literacy, etc. So I'm not against it. I think we should have a special expertise in all these fields, including the new emergence of new fields like artificial intelligence literacy, but however it doesn't change anything for us in our approach to it. I would like to read something from a very old document from 2007, a European approach to the media literacy in the digital age, and I really repeat it all the time when we are working with young people. And this sentence is for me really very, very important. The various levels of media literacy, however we call it, include feeling comfortable with all existing media from newspapers to virtual communities. We can now add whatever we want. Actively using media through inter alia interactive television, which has almost died, use of internet search engines or participation in virtual communities, and better exploiting the potential of media for entertainment, access to culture, intercultural dialogue, learning, and daily life applications. So it basically stays the same. We have new fields, we have the emergence of new technology, and the only really significant change for me, myself as a person, is to choose which of these numerous services to use in this over-mediated world and which not to use, you know. And this feeling comfortable is not only that I'm feeling comfortable, more comfortable when watching Netflix than reading newspapers, but feeling empowered, feeling the security, feeling that I know that I'm in control when I'm using the services. So I think it stays basically the same, although the fields are expanding all the time. But on the basic concept, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really change a thing. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. There is also, we have our global audience comes from all over the world. We have also people watching from Africa, from Brazil. We have Carlos Limas from Brazil that says that media literacy is very important as content for students of basic education. We have all agreed on that, starting from preschool education, actually. And this year, there is an opportunity to deal with this infodemic. I would like to suggest that also the implementation of the of state regulation, the Audiovisual Media Service Directive, it's very important to be implemented as a national regulation by the member states, because this is where also the information service providers, the media industry, will be forced in a way, you know, to deal with it, not just a good feeling, just a good gesture, but to look deeper into engaging their audience, their users with media literacy and critical skills. And there are many good examples with the social media providers, content providers, that you can find in this new ERGA report, that it is improving media literacy campaigns on disinformation. It is accessible from ERGA website to go and download and see what's going on a European level in terms of engaging the industry and the media stakeholders in the media literacy discussion. So if there are not any other questions, I think it's time to close and end this webinar. As I said, it was just the beginning, because these themes and these topics, they cannot be exhausted in just one webinar. Here in EKOME, we are very happy about the EKOME Meal webinar series. We will continue our webinars, so stay tuned for the next webinar coming on March. And also visit our website www.ekome.media to find all about all our other projects on media literacy and gamification and critical skills. Thank you very much, the panelists, for your time, for your useful and very important and challenging input. And thank you especially the audience for participating with us in this discussion.
Thank you as well. Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Gracias. Thank you very much.
No. Let's finish with the whisper.
Thank you. And we'll be in touch with everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now we're not live anymore. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, panelists and the audience. And this webinar will be recorded and uploaded from EKOME website, and feel free to share it, and we can also get back and discuss in more details our prospects of cooperation and networking. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Despina.